You clearly have such a grasp on the romance genre, and as I was researching you ahead of time, I know why. So you worked for Romance Writers of America as an editor of the trade journal, among other things, back in the 90s, if I'm right. What was it like to work there, and do you think it prepared you at all for your career as a romance author, or did you end up discovering that, life as an author is different than you expected?
It was the absolute dream job. I went to college in Texas, and the national office of RWA was just up the road, 2 hours away in Houston. And I had a senior PR class where we had to work, like get ourselves some sort of internship. And this is before the internet. And I was like literally in my college library looking at all trade associations in America that might have to do with publishing because I wanted to eventually either work in publishing or be a writer as a journalism major. And then I found the National Trade Association for Romance Novelists like just up the road. And so I wrote to the woman who would become my boss and asked if I could come for a summer or 2 weeks. And as a lifelong romance reader, of course, I was only 20. So, how long had my life been? In the 4 years since I had been reading romances, I was just a super fan. So, the very first national convention that summer was the keynote speaker was Judith McNaught. And if you know anything about old school romance, like back in the day, 89, 90, 91, she was just she's the Taylor Swift of romance writing. And she was my absolute favorite. And I got to meet her, and I got to meet so many authors as part of working the national convention, which was just 1 week. But when I was back in the office, I was on the phone to all the various authors all the time. And it was an absolute dream job. It was a wonderful community of authors, published, unpublished, aspiring. And it gave me a look at the backside of how you approach an agent, approach an editor, what they were looking for, why it's so important that books be defined as romance or women's fiction or thriller or that's not really important to the reader, but it's super important in publishing and to a writer to know what lane you're in. And I learned it's incalculable all I learned. I loved it.